Sometimes. We sit alone in the quiet corners of our homes, the clock ticking, the hum of a refrigerator in the background, and we ask ourselves, how did life get here? How did it move so fast? We blinked, and now we're in our 60s or 70s with a head full of stories and a heart full of questions. Questions we never thought we'd be asking at this age, questions about connection, about love, about our bodies, and maybe, most quietly, about money, purpose, or intimacy. It's okay. You're not alone in these thoughts. And today, we're going to talk gently and truthfully about something that many don't speak about, but many feel deeply. Because after 50, life doesn't end. It changes. And sometimes that change can feel confusing, painful, even a little bit lonely. Many seniors, especially in the US, the UK, and Canada, find themselves navigating a very different emotional and physical landscape after retirement. You may feel your body changing slower mornings, softer skin, a shifting appetite for touch or closeness. For some, menopause brought a fog that never fully lifted. For others, maybe it's the quiet frustration of erectile dysfunction or a changing libido, and the silent worry, am I still desirable? Am I still enough? And in those questions lies something tender and true. We are still human. We still long for warmth, for connection, for the kind of love that doesn't ask for perfection, but embraces presence. Yet for so many, intimacy after 50 becomes shrouded in shame or silence. We're told by society through movies, magazines, even our own children sometimes, that aging is something to hide, to fight, to mourn. But what if we challenge that? What if aging could be beautiful? Not in spite of our wrinkles or our gray hair, but because of them? Let me share with you a story that might sound familiar. There was a couple, let's call them Margaret and James. They'd been married for 38 years. Their children were grown. Their house was quiet now. James had retired, and Margaret was finally slowing down after a lifetime of caring for everyone but herself. And yet, they felt like strangers. They ate dinner in silence, slept side by side, but with miles between them emotionally. The spark was gone, not just in their bedroom, but in their connection. One day, Margaret sat across from James and said gently, "I miss us." And to her surprise, he nodded. He missed them too. What followed wasn't some grand romantic revival. It was slow, intentional. They began talking again, touching again, not just physically, but emotionally. They held hands on walks. James started complimenting her more. Margaret began laughing again, a sound he realized he had missed for years. They rediscovered each other not as young lovers, but as aging soulmates. And it didn't require perfect health or youthful bodies. It required courage, honesty, and a willingness to be seen fully just as they were now. You see, emotional intimacy in later life isn't about performance. It's about presence. It's about truly listening, letting go of what once was and embracing what is. And for those of you who are single, whether by choice, by loss, or by circumstance, this journey is no less valid. In fact, many older adults find a deeper relationship with themselves in their later years than they ever had in youth. They learn to enjoy their own company, to take pride in their routines, to rediscover hobbies, to say yes to new friendships. Some even find love again in a community garden, at a local book club, or through a smile exchanged at the pharmacy. Yes, love in later life can surprise you. But often, before we can reach out to another, we need to reach back in to ourselves. Because as our bodies age, so do our insecurities. You may notice changes in your skin, your weight, your energy. You may mourn what once was. But hear this, my dear friend, there is no expiration date on beauty. on sensuality, on emotional closeness. You are not invisible. You are not broken. You are becoming something softer, wiser, more real. Maybe you have regrets. A marriage that ended. Words you never said. Time you can't get back. That's part of the human story, but aging invites us to stop carrying those regrets like bricks. Let them down. Let them be. And in their place, hold gratitude for what you survived, for who you are now. Rebuilding trust with yourself and others starts with small steps. Maybe it's initiating a conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's seeing a therapist or a counselor to unpack old wounds. Maybe it's simply looking in the mirror and saying, "I forgive you." It's also okay to ask for help. So many older adults grew up in a generation where emotions were kept quiet, especially around sex, intimacy, or mental health. But times are changing. We now know that emotional well-being is as important as physical health. If you're feeling distant in your relationship, talk to your partner. If you're navigating depression, isolation, or anxiety, speak with a professional. There is no shame in seeking support. In fact, it's one of the bravest things you can do. And when it comes to your body, treat it gently. Feed it nourishing foods. Move it with kindness. Wear clothes that feel good on your skin. And above all, speak to it lovingly. This body, your body, has carried you through decades of life, through heartbreak and healing, through joy and grief. It deserves your compassion, not your criticism. Let me share one more story. Eleanor was 72, a widow. She had never remarried. For years, she told herself that love had passed her by, that no one would want her now. But one evening at a community dance, she met Harold. He was quiet, kind. They shared a slow dance. That was it. Nothing magical, just kind. 3 weeks later, he invited her to lunch. They talked for hours. And as they got to know each other, Eleanor began to feel something she hadn't felt in decades, seen. They didn't rush. They didn't try to relive their youth. They created something new, gentle, patient, respectful. And in that space, Eleanor found not just love, but a sense of being truly understood. There is something deeply sacred about being known in your later years. Not for your achievements, not for your body, not for your status, but simply for your soul. So if you're listening to this today and you're feeling unsure, perhaps a little afraid, know that you are not alone. Aging is not something to survive, it's something to embrace. You are in one of the richest chapters of your life, a chapter where you get to define what love looks like, what joy feels like, what connection means. Let yourself explore. Let yourself soften. Let yourself be touched emotionally, spiritually, and yes, even physically, without shame. And when you feel ready, reach out. Call an old friend. Join a group. Hug your partner. Or simply place a hand over your heart and whisper, "I am still here. I am still worthy. I still matter." Because you do. If this message touched something in you today, if it reminded you that you're not alone, that you are still deeply worthy of love, closeness, and connection, then I invite you to gently support this community. Like this video if it brought you comfort. Share it with someone who might need to hear these words, and subscribe to The Age of Beauty, a space where aging is honored, emotions are embraced, and every chapter of life is celebrated. You're not forgotten. You are deeply, beautifully seen. And until next time, take care of your tender heart.